Hey guys, how are you? This is my first stream on YouTube, and I really wanted to talk about life extension research. I don't know if a lot of you have heard about life extension or the age reversing kind of movement that's going on, but it's really a big thing, such that it's in all the newspapers now, like the Washington Post and the Forbes and the Guardian. They're all talking about it, and in particular and lately, it's senolytics, which kills senescent cells. Those are like old people cells. And then, of course, Michio Kaku, the physicist that we all know, has talked about the feasibility of reversing the aging process within the last 2 days, and he talked a lot about telomeres. Um, but yeah, at this point in time, there's going to be a lot of movement in in the research to reverse the aging process. But the one bottleneck, I would say, unfortunately, is funding. Funding is what any top researcher or anyone involved in the trenches will tell you is the major bottleneck. And what I am proposing and what I think is a good idea is getting our government research apparatus, specifically the one for medical research, which is known as the National Institutes of Health, otherwise known aka the NIH, getting them to focus more of their budget or expanding their budget to focus on the biology of aging. Now, the biology of aging has many different hallmarks, and a hallmark, really what it is it's a type of way in which we age. So really what we're going to have to do is come up with at least 9 therapies. There are 9 to 13. I mean, I see different numbers all the time, but there's different numbers of hallmarks suggested. One is like genomic instability. Another one is stem cell depletion. One is mitochondrial dysfunction slash depletion. Um, and so there are different strategies for handling each of those hallmarks of aging. And just recently, as I was saying at the beginning, just the senolytics, which focus on senescent cells, which is one such hallmark, um, are already in human clinical trials. So that's imminent. It won't be much longer before we see at least that age reversing modality available to us. But if we push harder for this, if we push harder to reverse the aging process, all of us, and we ask our congressmen and our senators and everyone to reverse the aging process, to devote resources to this, then you know what will happen is that maybe we can keep our older relatives alive. The ones most at risk of dying of age-related diseases at this point are our older relatives. And so we need to move as fast as we can with this research. And I think that really the best bang for our buck is the National Institutes of Health. I mean, honestly, they've funded so many of the greatest biomedical discoveries in history. I mean, just look, the Human Genome Project, that's one such discovery. That was funded by the NIH. In fact, it was ran by the current director of the NIH. That totally revolutionized medicine. And a lot of the other things like CRISPR-Cas9 had basis in NIH funding and many other things like that. So getting them to focus on curing aging, or at least understanding aging so that companies can come in and cure aging, would really speed things up. I mean, this NIH organization, this apparatus, is known as the miracle machine because of how many cures it comes up with, how many answers to diseases and biomedical mysteries and problems. So what we need to do is empower it more and to direct it to focus on the things that are important to us. And aside from rare diseases, I think, and regenerative medicine, I think aging is a huge area where we can add some additional focus. Of course, cancer, Alzheimer's, we're already focusing on those. But I mentioned Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's actually has a huge basis in aging. And what they found is that when treated with some of these senolytic drugs, some of the signs of certain type of dementias, as I understand it, are, they're mitigated in mouse models. I believe it was. I'll have to look at the paper again, but it's very encouraging. And the senolytics that are on clinical trials aren't being used to reverse aging per se. They're used for arthritis. That's what their official designation is for. But theoretically, it could be used to reverse the you know get rid of senescent cells in any tissue in the body or anywhere in the body. Anyway, the takeaway from this talk is that we need to get funding into the NIH because it's one of the most efficient, um, uh, you know, uh, kind of bangs for our bucks as far as money is concerned. I mean, it has an 8-to-1 return. And, if we really want to make progress on aging and stimulate industry, and don't get me wrong, it's not this, you don't have to fear big government. That This is not a regulatory agency. All the NIH is a research agency. It's just a biomedical research apparatus that looks at fundamental things in biology, not necessarily things that could be marketed or profited on, but you never know what random thing can lead to a huge breakthrough, right? So you have to let them do that. And then the companies are focused on kind of taking what's been discovered and and turning it into a profitable industry. And so it's a symbiotic thing, industry and the medical research apparatus. It's not government or corporations. In fact, any CEO of any of these major corporations of pharmaceutical companies will tell you just how essential they are. So anyway, that's the takeaway. We need to get the NIH focused on addressing the aging process, and we need to expand the budget for it, and we need to do it as fast as possible to keep our loved ones alive. Anyway, thank you very much for everything, for listening to my initial podcast, and I hope this was in some way informative. If not, I apologize for wasting your time. And I hope that you consider watching future podcasts, not podcasts, streams from me. And thanks again. Have a great one. Bye bye.